Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, your hostess and life coach Maureen, as most of you know me. I always say every guest I have is amazing, and I was just talking to my beautiful guest who looks fabulous in hot pink, by the way, which is, you all know, pink is my color and my brand color. And we were saying, I said, I always know the right people come in front of me, and I can't wait to see where that connection is. And so we've already been saying it's super cool to have, and I love what she said, chicks having coffee talk. That's what we're gonna do today. I think the subject that we're gonna talk about with my next guest is, it's not talked about enough, and I have a family member that struggles with this, so I can't wait to talk to her about that. So let me introduce you to my friend Tracy Herbert. She is a leading authority on health and wellness. She's a transformational health and longevity coach, a professional speaker, a best-selling author, podcast host, and diabetes advocate. She is a sought-after speaker, I have no doubt, and a frequent guest on TV shows. Of her books that she's written, there's 3 of them, and she also has 2 podcasts. One of them that stood out to me, and I can't wait to talk to her about this story, is called Ride for Hope, One Woman's Solo 3,527-mile bicycle ride that inspired the nation. Welcome, my friend Tracy.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Looking forward to a great conversation over coffee or water or whatever you're drinking.
It's coffee, and there's my mug with my puppy who passed away in December.
Aww.
And then he was the inspiration. It's kind of bright. He was the inspiration for my book. There's my book cover. So every time I drink out of it, I think of him, and I know that he's with me. So we are doing coffee talk for sure. So here at I Never Knew, and bless her heart, not all of my guests have time to listen to the podcast before they come on. And bless her heart, I so appreciate that she listened to our podcast before she came on. And as she knows, we talk about your knee story. And your knee story is, where was that moment? And I'm finding everybody has the same answer. There were me. But what's the really big knee story that brought you to your knees, that made you say, this isn't going to happen. I have to change my life. I can't do this anymore. And this is just devastating, and things have to change. Tell us your story from the beginning.
I'm 17 years old, lying in a hospital bed, fighting for my life. I mean, the ICU unit, you can hear the beeps while I'm going in and out of consciousness. The doctor walks in, and he puts his hands on his hips, and he says, young lady, you have juvenile diabetes. You're going to die in 20 years. You're going to go blind. You'll be on dialysis. You're going to have your legs amputated. You're never going to be able to have any children. And then he turned around and walked out of the hospital room. And at 17 years old, I was like, I have questions, but I had no hope. And I thought, what is going on in my life? And juvenile diabetes, now called type 1 diabetes, is totally different than what most people have, which is type 2 diabetes. But at that moment, from that moment, 17 years, no, I was 17 years old, now 47 years later, I've been taking insulin shots every day, and I will until there's a cure. But what I kept hearing, everything, I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. Every time I would go into a special class to learn all the things you have to learn to live with a chronic disease like diabetes, everybody kept telling me the same thing. You're going to be dead in 20 years. You're going to die with horrible complications. And there's really no worth anything worth anymore. I mean, luckily my parents didn't listen to the doctors because they were all saying, don't waste your money sending her to college. I was a 17-year-old high school senior, and it was ridiculous. And so, of course, I was depressed for quite some time. And I kept sitting there going, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So one day I finally ventured out with my friends and we went to a movie theater. Went to see Animal House. Yay! Love that movie. Anyway, and you know, you walked in with all your friends, and you know, what's the first thing you smell? Popcorn. And you're hearing the popcorn as you're getting closer to the concession stand. Well, I remember my mom screaming as I'm running out the door, remember, you can't eat anything. Now, we had plenty of money. That wasn't the issue. She wasn't trying to be mean. It's just, you're on a very restricted diet, especially in the mid 70s, a little bit different than it is today. And I walked up to the concession stand clerk after all my friends got their candy and Cokes and all that stuff. And I said, could I have a cup? You know, back then they had just small cups, so I could go to the water fountain and fill it up with water. This was way before diet soft drinks, way before a bottle of water. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, no. And I said, I'll be glad to pay for the cup. And she said, no. At that moment, my life changed. And it was the best thing, but the worst thing that happened to me. And I ran out of the movie theater screaming and crying, saying, why me? Why me? Why me? Because my life was supposed to be over. And I got home, went to bed, and I'm sitting there crying. I can't tell you the horrific feeling I had at that moment in my life. And I had, Tracy, you have two choices. You can be better or you can be bitter. What are you going to choose? And at that moment, my life changed. And I said, I'm going to do everything I can to be better and not be bitter. So I'm going in and started researching in a medical school library. Even though I was a senior in high school, they let me go in. That was way before the internet. And I started researching everything I could at that moment, how to live a longer, healthier life, despite having diabetes. And I've been researching ever since that moment. And I do things that is crazy, but I'm alive and I'm doing it. And what's so sad now is when I speak, especially to medical professionals, the first thing out of their mouth when I get done speaking is, how are you still alive? And what are you doing? And so they're asking me what they're doing. And my endocrinologist, which is a doctor who takes care of people with diabetes, he was the one that insisted I write my first book, Diabetes Tragedy to Triumph, because he said, Tracy, you've got to get your message out there because I only see a small amount of patients every day. And by the way, he had that book in his office until the day he retired because he was so proud of that book, because he said, I've got the book smarts, but you've got the common sense. You've got the research. And from that moment on, I knew there was a reason why God allowed me to have this disease. And so I said, I'm going to provide hope no matter what people are going through, because I want people to realize no matter your age, no matter your diagnosis, no matter your setbacks, you can do it. And that's what I always say. And you can do it. I guarantee it. Because if I can do it, so can you. And so every decade, and please, I want to have a conversation with you. But this is every decade after 20 years of living with diabetes. So when I was 37, I started thinking, okay, let's do something to celebrate. Again, I choose to be better, not bitter. And I thought, okay, so I did a 100-mile bike ride, no big deal, nothing. Then the next year the next decade, I did I did a triathlon. And then, so as my approach for my 40th anniversary of my diagnosis, because again, not only am I not supposed to be alive, I'm not supposed to have children, but not only have children, but I'm also a grandmother. And I said, what am I going to do? And I said, well, let's ride your bicycle from San Francisco to New York City to celebrate. And that's exactly what I did. 3,527 miles. I got on my bicycle and at the Golden Gate Bridge, and I pedaled I finished on the Dr. Oz show, but we finished, then we finished at the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh my goodness. I need my applause button and I can't get to it right now, but oh my gosh, how amazing. Now, how long did it take you to do the ride?
Okay. Now I could have easily done it in 6 weeks, But because my mission was to provide hope to other people, it took me 3 months because I did so many talks along the way, did a lot of, speaking at, hospitals. And I was already a professional speaker even before I did the ride. So I already had some gigs lined up that I had to do. And then I had, TV appearances along the way. And then when I got the call from the Dr. Oz show and they said, could you do it on this date? So I had to wait a couple of weeks in New Jersey just to wait to finish up because they wanted me to finish the ride live on their show. So, and we shot a documentary. I wrote another book and I started a foundation, and that's something that has changed my life, but it's for the good. Let me tell you that was something else for these kids. And I'll go into it later if we have time and if you want to know about the foundation.
I want to get into all of it. So listeners, if you don't know the difference between the diabetes type 1 and type 2 is the type 1 requires insulin, and it's they consider it, I think it's under 30. Is it under 30 is considered childhood diabetes?
Well, that's changing rapidly because more people over the age of 50 is getting type 1 juvenile diabetes now than even children.
Okay,
it's crazy.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the type 2 is usually regulated by diet and exercise and
Correct.
weight and such. I have a family member, and they're very private, so I can't say who it is, but I have a family member who has type 1, and they were diagnosed at 30.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, interesting. And it's been 20 something years that they've had it. And it's been a struggle to help them with this. And it's been a big struggle for them having this. And here's the biggest challenge that this family member of mine has. They don't look sick on the outside. Right. And so they don't take seriously the things that they need to do. Now, this family member has a pump that regulates it, but these pumps unfortunately have malfunctions, and there's been kinks in the hoses, and you put this needle in there in so many different places, you get scar tissue and it doesn't go in all the way. So it's been a real struggle. So tell us, what are some of the ways that you changed the view of diabetes and how you can help people who are newly diagnosed or have struggled like my family member for 20 years and just can't really come up with that solution?
Well, when I started in my mid-30s, even though I was doing what I was researching and I was learning so much, I really started thinking maybe the doctors were right. Because by this time it had been almost 20 years thinking maybe my life is over. Back to the researching area I went, and I started thinking I was taking 9 shots a day. And I knew, and so I was doing this the whole time, which is not healthy, and you don't want that. Right. But that's when I discovered my 3M formula. And y'all, if you don't remember anything else today, I don't care if you have type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or want to be healthy as you age, or if you want to lose some weight, this 3M formula is going to be mind-boggling. The first one is mind. You have to have the right mindset, which I mean, Maureen, of all people, but you got to have the right mindset. Say, I can take care of this. I can do it. I'm in control. This is not going to control me. Yeah. Number 2, mouth. We have to learn to eat to live and don't live to eat. And I'm going to get back to that one because that's very critical. And then the third one is move. We got to get off our chairs and move more. Now, people always say, well, how did you train to ride your bicycle across the United States? Y'all, it's pretty simple. Every day from the age of 17 until now, which I'm a little bit older than that, if you can't tell.
No, we cannot.
But I have more energy now than I even did in my 30s, which is so crazy. But every day I do something. Sometimes it's going for a walk. Sometimes it's yoga. Sometimes it's just sitting there meditating and stretching. But do something every day to keep your body moving. Because when you have diabetes, when you have cancer, when you have Alzheimer's, everything we have is all connected to our body, obviously. And so when you learn these 3 principles and really take it to heart, mind, mouth, and move, your life will change. That I can guarantee. And so mouth, that was a thing that really got me at 17 years old. I mean, back then it was so much more strict than it is today because we didn't have insulin pumps and continuous glucose monitors. But again, back, what 17-year-old kid doesn't want to go out and hang out with their friends, right? Everybody does. So what did you do when you're in high school? My friends, we all went out and used to eat pizza. Well, they all still wanted to go out and eat pizza. And as a kid, I was sitting there going, okay, Tracy, what can I do to not want that pizza? Because I could eat anything I want, but I would always say, well, it's going to kill me. So why would I eat it? So I would imagine, again, this is not coffee talk kind of talk, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it works for me and it works for everybody that I work with. Imagine, rats or mice or something running across the pizza or whatever it is, donuts for you, whatever that is, and imagining them using the restroom. You're not going to want to eat that. And it works wonders. Visualization. I'm a big visualization person.
I love that. It's like NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Yes.
I actually practice that with my clients. And that's great. It's like, make me not want this.
Exactly. And it works. And so
right.
hot fudge sundaes. I was loved hot fudge sundaes as a kid. And first time I had an opportunity to eat one when my parents weren't around. I didn't, because again, this is my life and I'm taking responsibility for it, even as a teenager. But I imagined broken up glass in the hot fudge sundae. And I thought, it's going to cut up my throat. And so still today, now I'll have a little sliver of birthday cake for one of my grandkids, or something like that. I don't 100% deprive myself, but I don't, because I get addicted to sugar. Sugar is very addicting, y'all. It's very addicting. So I just stay away from that kind of stuff. But those kind of things really work for me still to this day. Or I'll imagine, and this is something a lot of my clients do, is like, okay, if I have that, I'm just a soft drink or whatever, how much am I going to have to go out and exercise to burn the calories off? I'm not a calorie counting person. I don't think that works. I think what works is eating those bad foods in very small amounts of moderation. But I used to hate vegetables. I eat salads at almost all my meals exclusively, because what's so interesting with diabetes and my continuous glucose monitor is I see every 5 minutes what my blood sugar is. I mean, it's constantly updating it. And when I eat salads and stuff like that, and my blood sugar is flatlined, I have so much more energy. The weight comes off and I just feel so much better. And my diabetes is in control. But when I go out and I eat a bag of potato chips, which I don't recommend people doing that, or cookies or donuts or whatever it is your little special treat. When you start, if you could see what I could see on mine, it's amazing what it's doing to your body. And now there's so many doctors on the internet and stuff, so forth, asking people, wear a CGM for a couple of months, continuous glucose monitor, just to see what these foods do to your blood sugar. I mean, there are so many things, but that 3M formula transitioned and transformed my life, because it was something I could get my head around and say, okay, does this help me with my 3M formula or does it hurt me? It's so simple, but yet people think it's so complex, and it takes some time. I didn't get this overnight, y'all. I promise you that. I mean, I didn't.
No. And especially like you said, in the time period of when you were diagnosed, I mean, things were completely different. Mm-hmm. And I love food. And so I always have so much empathy and sympathy for people who can't have what they want when it comes to food. So one of the things I would do for my family member was always seek out alternatives. Like, they love their sugar and their candy and their sodas. And so I would always try to find these alternatives to ice cream or pudding or something. And there are so many resources now. I have to say, there is a website for food prep, guys, that I love, and it's called Skinny Taste.
Yeah.
And what's cool, if you're familiar with it, is you can do low calorie, low carb, diabetic. There's a couple of other gluten free, keto. So there's all kinds of websites out there. I just happen to have done Skinny Taste and found the most amazing recipes, because I help my husband do low carb. We do low carb. But in menopause, it's very hard to lose the weight. But I love the 3M. It is the mind, and that applies in my life coaching to every client. Is first you've got to decide. That's the number one mind thing. Decide. You want this thing that will be better for you. I love what you said. Is this going to hurt me or is this going to harm me? I mean, is this going to help me or is it going to hurt me? That's how I look at with life too, is does this serve my purpose or does this hurt my purpose? Does this keep me from my purpose? So all of this is so beautiful. And I love that you say that. So you need to eat to live, not live to eat. And we've we've associated, and I'm actually going to do a TED talk on this eventually when I get it. The sixth love language to me is food. And we use that as think about all the times that we get together with family. We have food. We have birthday parties. We celebrate food. Every time we have a sad gathering with a funeral, got to have food. So like when you said eat to live, not live to eat, it just bells went off. I'm like, we do everything around food. Being 17, junk food is like life. And for you to say, I was able to just monitor it and say, I got to tell myself I don't want this thing. How do you find the alternatives when we're having these gatherings with everybody? Do you bring your own food? Do you food prep? How about helping meal planning for our fellow diabetics?
This works even if you don't have diabetes. That's what's crazy about this. Yeah. So when I go to parties, and especially if there's going to be a buffet line, stay on the other side of the room. Don't even get near it. Don't even have water with you. I don't leave home without I have water all the time, because most of the time when we're hungry, we're just really dehydrated. That's all it is. And I eat before I go, and then I'll nibble on a few things, because so few places you go, especially with gatherings, have healthy options. That I'm very, very anal about my options, because I eat to live. I don't live to eat. So and when it's my turn, or when I say, hey, everybody bring a dish, everybody always instantly knows, because a lot of my friends, we have guessing games, or back in the day we did, who brought this food, I want this recipe. Mine, everybody say, that's Tracy, because I'd bring like blueberries, or or a salad or something like that. At the company picnics, I'd always bring, when it was something, okay, the theme is green, I'd bring green grapes, even though they're higher in sugar, but still to get people to realize you don't have to eat all those cookies. If you're going to splurge, have some grapes or something. I mean, it's the mind. If you go in knowing, or especially when you go out to eat, when we do go out to eat, now that we're empty nesters a lot, we'll make a decision where we're going to go. And then if you don't know the place, look at the menu and then say, okay, this is what I'm going to eat. And then always, if you can, drink a glass of water before you eat, because you will consume fewer calories, even if you eat something that's high glycemic, or, that spike your blood sugar. But when you eat those high glycemic foods, your blood sugar spikes. Even without diabetes, it's going to crash. And that's when it crashes, everybody overeats. So say you go and have some kind of a food, donuts or whatever, and a couple hours later, then your blood sugar tanks. Then you're thinking, I got to eat more. Well, how many people are going to go have a salad, or even an apple, which I'm a berry fan. I love blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, because they don't spike your blood sugar as much. And for me, I don't like to take insulin. I mean, I have to, obviously, to live, but less insulin I take, I know it's better for my body. Now, don't stop taking insulin, but I just look at it because I want to have that flat line. So there's options out there, and very few places I go with large groups of people, especially like, funerals. People want to bring comfort food. Well, I just choose to have a little, I don't want to be rude and disrespectful, and I'll have a small little plate, but you'll see me eating a salad before I go into a place, just to make sure that I get what I need. I'm more full, because if you're ravished and you want food, then you're going to be sitting there going, oh, wait a minute, what am I going to do? Then they're going to just start eating and eating and eating. Always drink water before a meal. That's life-saving.
Wow. And you're right. And a lot of the times, like, especially with my family member, she'd be on the road a lot, and it was just the convenience. And she'd call and I'd say, what are you doing? She'd say, well, I'm in the line at Wendy's. And I'm like, you're getting an iced tea, right? An unsweetened iced tea. And she's like, no, I'm getting a Frosty. And I'm like, no, you're not. Get an iced tea. It's that convenience factor. And do I want to meal prep? But meal prepping is really easy. I make my husband on Sundays. I literally make him 4 or 5 salads for lunch every single day. And it's so easy. You just do it in volume, put them in little containers, and have at it. Or some of your healthier chicken breast or tuna, something like that. It's great. I love the drink before you go concept. I think it's wonderful. The other thing to remember is, if you're going, and this applies diabetic or not, is when you eat those carbs and you eat that stuff that's not good for you, remember what you feel like afterwards. Because you get that, like, I'm bloated. I get headaches, and then I'm tired. I'm just fatigued for the rest of the day. And I try to remember that before I do that. The other thing is, don't they suggest eating a lot of small meals to regulate sugar?
That's where the research is now changing. It used to be eat 6 small meals a day, but now, especially for people with prediabetes, and that's 1 out of 3 Americans have prediabetes and don't even know it. That's what's scary. But people that have been diagnosed with prediabetes, but on no medication, they're doing the intermittent fasting. They're fasting for, say 12, 18 hours, depending on what works best for them. And they're beginning to see that the pancreas and all that, I'm not going to go into all the science behind that, but they're beginning to see healing where we're not constantly filling our mouths with food. So there's changing research. I actually now do intermittent fasting, even as a type 1 diabetic. Okay, nobody shoot me for that, but I know what works best for me. And so I do that. And what's interesting, I've even done a 24-hour fast, which my doctor said, don't do it. And I said, I'm going to try it because I want to see, because I had several clients with prediabetes that wanted to try it. And I thought, I'm going to try it. But I wear a continuous glucose monitor. I wear an insulin pump. And I know, okay, if I go low, my blood sugar drops low, I'm going to break my fast. I mean, I'm not going to ruin my life for this. And actually, when I do my 24-hour fasts, after the next couple of days, I even need less insulin for the same amount of food that I ate before my fast, which is very, very interesting.
Wow, that really is interesting because, the old idea of feeding the diabetic is what they would do. Oh, throw them something to get that blood sugar back up a little bit. And what you're trying to avoid is the spikes and the drops. You want to keep consistent, which is, someone who is non-diabetic, your pancreas does that for you. And that's the whole idea of the insulin. I love all of it. How was it, going on Dr. Oz and kind of having your moment of, because I'm a big one on the take that, I showed you moments. Did you get your I did it, I showed you doctors, and don't get me on my soapbox, but I was in the medical field, started in nursing, and I was in the medical field for 28 years before I became a life coach 6 years ago. And I have my own opinions about the medical community. And I'm just going to say this, listeners, you've heard me say this in other podcasts on this subject. Medical care is not a perfected science. Medical today they're treating your symptoms. They're not finding your cause. And if we continue to understand the medical community, their responsibility is to get you back to where you were, not to cure what you have. And they're going to do that by consulting with pharmaceuticals. And that is, it's always going to be hand in hand chemically. We're going to do what we can to throw stuff at the problem. I personally feel naturopathic doctors are really wonderful. I think DOs actually are great too, because they do go more with the healthy aspects of life. I myself have a new cardiologist who is all about the healthy stuff. And he's really helping me sort of change my lifestyle to be healthier for my heart. So I love that you brought that up about the medical community. And the thing about the medical community is they learn things from people like Tracy, who live it every day, who find solutions. Don't rely on one doctor's opinion. If you don't like that opinion, you have every right to seek a second and third and fourth and fifth. Now that brings us to insurance. You can fight your insurance company. There's always appeal processes, guys. So I just wanted to throw that on my little soapbox moment, is you are not locked in to every doctor and every specialist, right?
Yeah. And you have to be your own advocate. That's because unfortunately, nobody has time to care. about your health. I mean, everybody cares, but it's up to us as patients to really go in there and say, this is it, this is it, this is it. So great example about, I'm saying, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I went to my doctor like normal, and my blood pressure started going up high, not high, but higher than what I like. And I thought, the doctor said, well, you know what? You probably need to be on this blood pressure medication. Didn't ask me anything, and just, okay. And I went to fill it at the pharmacy with some questions in the back of my mind. And I said, is there anything I need to be careful about? And she says, well, what do you like to do? And I said, well, I'm a long distance runner. I'm a bicyclist. And you are on this medication? And I said, yeah. And I said, I do yoga. She said, oh, you will have to stop doing yoga because you can't do yoga with this blood pressure medication. And I thought, wow. So anyway, I kept it all sealed up, didn't even open it, and went back to my office and started researching. And I realized something about blood pressure, that you can actually lower your blood pressure with beet juice and beet powder. And this was years before it became popular. And so I went back in a week later to get my blood pressure checked again. And the doctor just walked by. Hey, how are you doing, Tracy? Fine. She said, man, your numbers are doing great with your blood pressure. Those pills are working. And I had my little sack and I said, haven't even opened them. And she's like, what did you do? And I said, and so I told her about some of the research, and she's on her computer talking to me, and her mouth drops open. And she says, I never knew this. So then from that moment on, before she even put a patient on, and she's still to this day, before she puts patients on blood pressure medication, she has them to this protocol that I found online, or not online, PubMed, but I mean, I found the information, but she said, we never even knew this. So just things like that, I always say, do your own research, but you have to be careful because people on the internet, they could, but you got to go into the education part, you got to go where there's real scientific research, because there's things out there that can kill you too. I mean, and if it would have been dangerously high, I never would have done it. I would have taken the medication, but I love yoga. And I thought, why would I have to give up yoga? Because I know that's going to help me when I'm 80, and things like that. But you have to know what you can do and and talk to your doctor, but don't let them tell you what to do. Work as a team. I mean, that's what I believe. Every doctor I've ever been to, it's let's talk about this together. You're not going to tell me what to do, and I'm not going to tell you what to do,
Yeah, I cannot agree more with you, especially when you have things like I have fibromyalgia and arthritis. Of course, fibromyalgia, they just throw that out there because they can't figure anything else out. And they'll throw you on a mental health medication for fibromyalgia.
Yep.
And I did the same thing. My doctor did that. And I haven't touched that thing. And I'm going, no, I'm going to do stretching. I'm going to do walking. I am a firm believer in supplements. I think as we get older, our nutrients drop, but we don't take in as many nutrients. Our body doesn't absorb it as well. For me, especially my menopausal women, big thing. They're gonna throw hormones at you, and really, I think that's the very last thing. I am on these wonderful supplements. I don't have any hot flashes. I don't have night sweats. I mean, and it's natural. There's one I'm just gonna completely endorse this one, and they are not paying me. They should, but it's called Remy Femin. You get it on Amazon. Oh my goodness. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for it to really, maybe 2 weeks, I would say, for the hot flashes to stop and the night sweats to stop. And if you take it consistently every single night, you will not have those hot flashes. And it is just, Estroven is another one. It's a natural supplement. It's not a hormone replacement. And they have a weight management one that I'm taking right now. And it works. So really, try it. There doesn't hurt to try. If you try something for, a couple of weeks and you're like, this isn't really working, try something else. Ashwagandha, that's a big one right now. That's a biggie. Black cohosh, that's another one. So don't be afraid to try stuff, guys, before just jumping into the prescriptions and the pharmaceuticals because your doctor said so. Your doctor has an obligation to try to fix whatever is going on immediately for you to stabilize you or to, hopefully get you on the road to recovery. But they're really only managing something and you're in a group, basically when a doctor sees you, they're seeing you as the other 500 patients they've seen before you, right? They're not seeing you as Tracy is special. Her body's different. Her chemistry is different. And she reacts better to that. They don't deep dive enough into that, but you know your body and your chemistry better than anyone. So just don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and try different things. There's no supplement that's going to kill you, really.
No.
You
and with me, when I went through menopause, I'd never had one symptom of anything. I mean, again, same thing. Everything you do your research. One thing they're discovering though, when you're younger, like in your 30s, late 30s, is make sure you're exercising, make sure you're already eating healthy, make sure you're in the right weight, because the people that suffer the most in menopause, especially when they're going through menopause, is because of overweight. And that's really a major problem. But there's a new study that just came out. I can't think of what it was, but they're now saying that exercise for menopausal symptoms works just as well as anything else out there. That's probably why I never had any problems, because I was just like, oh, that was crazy. I thought that was going to be hard, but it was easy, you know.
Well, let's be real, Tracy. Not all of us can bike across the country for 3,500 miles. So I'm going to speak for the rest of us who have that belly fat and like to eat our donuts every now and then.
Okay, so let me tell you a story about that one, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to talk about Sally, not her real name. I stopped when I was riding through. I was at Sacramento. I rode through Sacramento from San Francisco, and I was waiting for the light to turn green. And I just happened to notice a young lady or a lady at the bus stop, just right beside me. And my gut, I thought, I need to go talk to her. I don't know what I was going to say. I just had that gut feeling she needed to be encouraged or something. And I got off my bike, and she said, "Well, it must be nice to ride your bike across the city." I'm like, "Well, I'm going across the country." But she was a beautiful young lady, probably in her 30s, but she was morbidly obese, probably 200 pounds just to become obese she would need to lose. And she kept telling me how embarrassed she was because she was waiting for a family member to come pick her up around the block. And she couldn't even walk around the block. And I kept telling her, "Could you try this?" And she's like, "I can't." Everything was, "I can't." And then I said, "Could you walk into your driveway?" And just that instant, that light bulb went off, and she said, "I think I can." I'm like, "I got her. Yes." So anyway, so then I told her, so I gave her some strategies on what to do. And then by the time I got riding into New York City, I got a text message from this lady, and she said, "Not only can I I can walk home, I can go across the block and everything else. I just signed up for my first 5K walk." She said, "I never realized that I haven't changed my diet at all, but I'm lost pant sizes like you wouldn't believe." And she's like, "I never knew what was possible," because she kept thinking she had to walk, go exercise in a gym or something like that. And I told her, if you can't even make it into your driveway, sit down and rest or just walk, and then she was never be able to go to her best friend's house, which was like 4 houses down, because she couldn't make it. And it's so if I call her Sally, again, not a real name, if Sally can do it, anybody can do anything, even if it's once in a while giving up one donut. Maybe if you have a donut a week, a donut every day or something, maybe one day don't have a donut and have an apple instead. I mean, there's little small changes equals huge results. I mean, it's just, but you can't sit there and say, "I can't ever have donuts again," or "I have to go work out at a gym," or "I have to ride my bicycle across the United States." None of that. It's just do what works best for you and take little small steps, and then start watching big gradual changes in your life. And I guarantee you'll never want to go back, because once you start feeling, I mean, I'm in my, mid 60s, and I have more energy. We have more energy than our kids and our grandkids. Well, maybe our grandkids, because they're still little. But, my husband and I are getting ready in 2 weeks to hike back to the bottom of the Grand Canyon again. And then we spend 2 nights down there, and then we hike back out. I mean, we don't let our age or medical conditions keep us from doing anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And and the thing about change, listeners, and we all know this, is our brains, and there's a scientific reason for this because of obviously the dopamine and the serotonin and all the happy chemicals. So what happens is when we think about doing something we don't want to do, it's because that chemical, the reward chemical, is not present. So when I think about having to exercise, if I immediately literally activate the non-reward, then I'm not increasing my happy chemical. So I'm saying if I do this, I have to give this up, and I don't want to give this up. That doesn't make me feel good. But just like Tracy said, when you just take the little steps, and I think I've said this in other podcasts, my son, my 24-year-old amazing little son, Noah, he always says, don't eat the whole hippo, just take a bite. And that's what this is. That's what those steps are. And you can push yourself. Like you said, walk to the end of the driveway. Tomorrow, walk to the end of the driveway and halfway to the neighbor's house. And before you know it, you're doing things you didn't think you could do before. And isn't that what we did, guys, from the beginning? From the minute you were born, you learned how to crawl, and you learned how to lift your head, and you learned how to roll over, but you didn't do it one time and succeed. You had to keep trying, tying your shoe, riding a bike. So we're no different as adults. It's just we've gotten comfortable in not growing anymore. So we have to just keep pushing ourselves to that point where I still want growth. So I just adore you. I adore you, your energy, everything about you. I just want to eat you up and take all that energy in me. So let's we're gonna tell everyone where to find you. Tell me about your podcasts. Are you doing your podcast still?
Actually, I'm taking a hiatus from both of them because it became so crazy busy and everything else going on. And diabetes, your diabetes breakthrough is the diabetes. And I had over 200 episodes, and then longevity codes, which is one step further because people kept saying, well, I started the diabetes one after my ride because people kept saying, how can I get more? Because I would do Facebook Lives and all those every morning, and people were following me. You know, it became a pretty big deal. Not only have I had diabetes 40 years at that time, but I also was a grandmother, which is pretty amazing. That not very many, and I did it by myself. I mean, so it wasn't like I was out there with a group of people saying, go, 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 you can do it. And so, but I'm very active now. And of course, my coaching business is doing extremely well. I'm very blessed because people are realizing, you know, they say, I can't. And I'm like, you can. I mean, when we change our mindset from I can't to I can, you know, things change too. So I'm on all the social media platforms, Tracy Herbert or Tracy Herbert Wellness, depending on where it is. And then my website is tracyherbert.com. And I offer free resources. There's so many things in there that can help you because my goal, not just to provide hope to people, because we need hope. Obviously, without hope, we have nothing. But I also want people to realize, hey, I'm 70 or I'm 40. I need energy. These are the steps that you can take to have more energy. Because like I said, I'm shocked how much better I feel now than I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 40 years ago. I mean, it's crazy how much different I feel. And I have more energy. And it's just following the 3M formula, mind, mouth, and move. So anyway, all that, my books are available on Amazon. You can get them on my website. You know, your diabetes, tragedy, triumph, and then the bike ride across the country, and then longevity codes. So there's all sorts of, 3 books out there that offer that. But you know what, if it's a challenge for you, let me know, send me a message on Calendly, and I'll do a strategy call for free for you because my goal is to help you get healthy no matter what your setback is.
Yes, she wants for you what she discovered the hard way that nobody told her. And
exactly,
as I always say, the reason that I do what I do is to be the voice that my younger self needed, and there wasn't anyone around. I just love it. I think you're a beautiful soul, and I think what you're doing is so vital and important. And like you said, 1 out of 3 adults is pre-diabetic, so that's a pretty big, scary number to think. And I personally think a lot of it has to do with the kind of foods we're eating, guys. Stop eating those prepared foods. And I tell you, I never liked cooking. COVID got me into gourmet cooking, and I started getting into these meal delivery services where they send you the fresh ingredients. And I used to hate cooking. It's probably because I was a single parent and it was a have to. And it was like, oh God, another dinner. God, what am I going to make? But now I really love making it, and it's really therapeutic, guys. It's kind of like it can be your own moment. I am neurodivergent ADHD. So for me to sit down and meditate is very difficult. So I can't sit down and do nothing. So for me, I find different ways to find that relaxation. My meditation is cooking, listening to podcasts, taking a walk, sitting in nature, playing with my dog. So meditation doesn't always have to be just sitting, doing nothing, because that's a real struggle for us that have a hard time shutting our brains down. So Tracy, you're absolutely amazing. Now, everything's always heavy that we talk about on this podcast, although this wasn't heavy. This was fun. But I do like to do something fun at the end. And I have a little segment called Take My Money. And what that is I would love to know what you have seen weird and wacky, either for sale or that you've purchased. And I'm going to give you a couple examples I found today. And you all can tell me what you think if this is real. And I'm saying this very, very sarcastically. I found a Fort Knox gold bar autographed by Donald Trump for $29.99 on eBay. I don't know. I'm just thinking it might not be real. And there was also a real 4-leaf clover, and they had a 2 for $1 sale. But the ultimate one that I saw today that I love the most, and I respect this person so much for just their complete transparency and honesty. Someone was selling their junk drawer and everything in it for 99 cents plus $7.22 shipping. So I thought that was pretty clever. So there's my take my money. What do you got for me?
Oh gosh. Oh wow. I think I've seen recently somebody in this area was selling dog waste and saying that it's great for your yard. And I believe it was a joke, but it was like $9.99 for a pound or something. I can't remember, but it was one of those crazy things, because I think it's a joke, but then I don't know. I mean,
It's the entrepreneurial minds that make this country run. And if that person can get $9.99 for a pound of poop, I'm in. Not to buy it, but maybe find my own resource. But of course, it wouldn't fit in. I have a dog boutique, an online store that has holistic and healthy treats and safety products and cute little accessories and fun stuff for dogs. I don't think I'm going to be carrying a pound of poop on there, so you all can breathe a sigh of relief. But that was great. That was a really good example of the weird and wacky that we have. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up for today. You guys reach out to my lovely, lovely lady, and she is at tracyherbert.com. You can reach out to me if you can't remember that, or you didn't write it down, or you're driving. Feel free to reach out to me. She's absolutely famous. Her books, Longevity Codes, Live Longer, Stay Healthy, Remain Independent, Ride for Hope, One Woman Solo, yada, yada, yada. That's a long title. Good Lord. I've had to write the title of my books, and I thought they were long. Do you just
Ride for Hope is a title. The subtitle is the 3,500.
Because like my dog is more enlightened than I am. I had a lot of second thoughts once that was published. I'm like, oh, why is this so long? And then Diabetes, Tragedy to Triumph. So I think you're absolutely fabulous. And I'm so grateful for you being on this podcast today. I think you're inspiring to everyone who has diabetes and those who do not, who just want to live a healthy life. I mean, look at you. You're shiny. You're like shiny in a good way. Glowing is what I should have said. Shiny. It's like no powder, just glowy. So thank you, my love. I'm so happy that I met you and that you honored me with this hour of your life that you're never going to get back. So thank you. That'll wrap it up for today, my listeners. I love you all for being here. Again, you can find me for any coaching, relationship coaching, dating coaching, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth coaching, all those things. Like Tracy said, we first start with mindset, and we can't take care of our physical if we don't take care of our mental as well. So I'm here for you. Reach out to me, message me if you want to be a guest on the podcast. Also reach out to me. Keep those 5-star reviews coming. We are at all 5 stars, so let's keep that going. And again, my books are on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach. You can find my coaching at lifecoachmaureen.com. And don't forget the Doggy Boutique with all of our healthy and holistic treats, shampoo bars, people soap. We've just got a new product, people soap. At mydogiseverything.net. So until next week, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Most of all, take care of those furry babies, please. Love you all. Until next week, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.